our studio. Madam Leader, thank you very much for being with us. Tell me this. There has been some recrimination back and forth, some few Republican members taking the fact that this man, this suspect, was online against Donald Trump, against the Republicans, to make this more of a partisan issue. What is your response to all that?
I think that's something that, a path I don't want to go down right now, because it is inappropriate. Right now, we're all praying very hard, using all of our energy to transmit to Steve that he get well, to give our comfort to his family, and again also to the others who were injured. I think it's completely inappropriate for them to make the comments they're making, and I think if we're going to have that conversation, we can save it for another day.
I wanted to show you something that just in the last hour, Chris said to our colleague on the air. Of course, he was the first Republican member of Congress to endorse Donald Trump from Buffalo. Let's watch.
I'm actually somebody that needs to also measure my language and response and not necessarily punch right back, but let's just, at least that half a step back. So yes, I do regret certainly what I said at 8:05 in the morning.
So that's an apology.
That's good. I'm glad he
to Chris Jansing.
Yeah, but especially now. I mean, again, there's enough vitriol out there that arouse people to do things. I don't know how. I think the investigation will be interesting. I don't know how he got the guns. Evidently, he had challenges. But let's again. It's a family thing. Every death in our country is a sad one, especially from gun violence, and we're sad for all of them. Again, close up, our friend. We're really very sad, and I'm glad that he backtracked from what he said.
What has changed, if anything, since Gabby Giffords suffered that grievous wound?
Well, it's funny. It was a strange course of events. So this weekend, I led a delegation of members to Galveston, Texas, where we commissioned the USS Gabrielle Giffords. We're
only the second woman to ever be so honored to have a ship named after her.
Martha Washington, who was alive. There are others who, like 16 women, had ships named for them, but while alive. And Gabby, it was a real tribute to a triumph of her courage, her strength. And the motto of the ship and of Gabby is, I'm ready, I am ready. So to have just seen the tribute to her for overcoming the challenge she had, using the time since then to promote gun safety, and then come here and have this, again, this need for a triumph spirit over what has happened. Hopefully Gabby will be an inspiration to all of us.
There seems to be a move among Democrats that it is too soon to really talk about gun safety. Governor McAuliffe did, but after Newtown we saw an immediate outpouring. We've seen the demonstrations last year, Chris Murphy's efforts, the filibuster, but nothing happens.
Don't forget the sit-in on the House floor.
The sit-in on the House floor. But is there a feeling now that politically that you can't emphasize that issue?
No. It's just that we're more than 24 hours, but maybe 30 hours since this happened, and we're addressing the emergency that we have right now, which is to get Steve through this, the others through this, and then there'll be a time to have those discussions about the appropriateness of some comments that people have made about, again, the need for background checks. But again, it's I don't think for today.
There was an all-house meeting, obviously, that you were co-leading with the Speaker.
Yes.
At this point, how concerned are members about their security, and how do you balance those needs for security versus the need of every member to interact with their constituents?
Right. Well, our concern for security is not just about us personally. The concern that members have expressed is concern for their staff, for their constituents who visit them, for the press that covers them, whether it's in the Capitol or in their district offices. So I think we're going to have to take inventory as to what exposure we have and what is reasonable to expect, and how we mitigate against any thought of danger, any threats and the rest. And the Capitol Police have been wonderful. We've all sung their praises for what happened yesterday, but they take risks every day. We lost two in 1990. they lost their lives.
Right.
And so they have the best appraisal of security, of danger, of security, and we're working with them as we go forward.
Are we going to need to have more security at town hall meetings, for instance, in districts for people other than members of the leadership?
Well, somebody was telling me, oh, I'm so sad because protesters showed at my town meeting. This is a democracy. And yes, if there seems to be a need for local law enforcement to be involved, then a judgment will be made. But we must not misinterpret the spontaneous outpouring of voices of the American people as a threat.
I wanted to ask you about the other big story of the day, which is reporting now confirmed by NBC News. The Washington Post first broke the story that Mueller's investigation, Robert Mueller's investigation, now is into the possibility of obstruction of justice. So it's moved from past campaign practices, possible collusion, to current activities or recent activities since the president was elected.
I can't speak to that. As you probably know, as a member of the Gang of Eight, I can't speak to whether we were briefed or if, the nature of any briefing.
What are your concerns about, for instance, a former speaker? You're a former speaker,
yeah.
Newt Gingrich today. This is a speaker who, back in May, tweeted Robert Mueller is a superb choice to be special counsel. His reputation is impeccable for honesty and integrity. Media should now calm down. Today, Newt Gingrich. Mueller is now clearly the tip of the deep state spear aimed at destroying or at a minimum undermining and crippling the Trump presidency. Mueller is setting up a dragnet of obstruction, financial questions in every aspect of Trump's life, etc.
Who cares what he said? I mean, obviously they've changed their tune. The fact is what we really need is an outside independent commission that would be able to... Right now we have Mueller, who's highly respected. And when you respect somebody for their objectivity in law enforcement, it doesn't change the way this... Obviously, Newt is being the political Newt that he always is.
The president is calling it, a witch hunt. Yeah. Newt is going after him. They're going after Robert Mueller.
I understand. And this is something that should be a message to the American people. A very highly respected person accepted that responsibility. I respect him as well, but I said we should have an independent commission as much as I respect him, because he is accountable to the Justice Department officials who were appointed by Donald Trump. So this is one path, a good path, I think, but nonetheless inside the Trump Justice Department. Then we have the investigations from the Congress, worthy investigations, and Congress should be doing that, House and Senate, but it's inside the Congress. We need an outside, objective, completely objective review of the events and have the American people know. The Russians, it's a fact, hacked, probably altered, definitely leaked information to undermine our election in our country. So regardless of Donald Trump, what is important for us to know is how we can protect the integrity of our own elections.
Well, according to reporting, the president said according to a memo written by the former deputy head of the National Security Agency, that the president is still rejecting the conclusion of the intelligence community that the Russians hacked and tried to interfere.
What can I say about the president? Really, the objectivity of the Mueller investigation, hopefully the integrity of the research or the investigation in the Congress, all very important. We need an outside in, because I don't know whether the president obstructed justice, but I do know that he abuses power.
But let me ask you, if there is not an outside investigation, if the president were to try to pressure the Justice Department to fire Robert Mueller, what would be the reaction? Do you think the Republicans in the House?
I don't think he would do that. Well, I mean, who knows what he would do. But I don't think he would do that. I think the repercussions would be so serious.
He's clearly been thinking about it, according to all the reporting. He's been musing about it and sounding off inside the White House about it.
Well, I think that what the president needs is a good night's sleep, or several maybe. He needs a good legal guidance, because clearly he's flirting with obstruction of justice. He clearly has abused power. But that is a different story from obstruction of justice. And again, it's not about him. It's about the United States of America. It's about our electoral system. It's about a president. I ask the question all the time, what do the Russians have on President Trump, politically, personally, or financially, that he would question the value of sanctions on Russia for their aggressive behavior in Eastern Europe, that he would put in question Article 5 of NATO, that he would give back opportunities for diplomats to be here that were exacted on the Russians for what they did, hacking into our life. Something's wrong with this picture. Something is wrong with this picture. Now, is it criminal? That remains to be seen. Is it abuse of power? Very clearly.
What if Robert Mueller does report to Congress and has a case to be made outlining obstruction or some other issue involving the president, and Republicans in Congress refuse to take action?
Well, there's two different things. He would not necessarily be reporting to Congress. His investigation would go to the courts. He might have information that is maybe not...
but if a president cannot be indicted and only a Congress can take action if there are issues that need to be resolved, do you think the Republicans in Congress, who now control Congress, would ignore that? Or do you think that we would then go down the route of impeachment?
Well, without stipulating to a fact that they are investigating the president, that's not necessarily what Robert Mueller is doing. He's investigating the situation. And so that part of it can go to the courts, as you say, not the president. There would be information that might emerge from his investigation that would be useful to the Congressional investigation, which is a different threshold, a standard of a judgment as to impeachment. But you know what? I don't even like to use the word, because it's only about two things, the facts and the law. It's not about opinion or anything else. And let's get the facts so that we can clear this up one way or another. But the fact is that decisions are being made and statements are being made by the president which are laudatory of Putin, dismissive of our own country, and we want to know why. Now, let's hope that they can clear the air and we can go forward. I think impeachment, I think every decision we make should be a decision to unify the country. To unify the country, to unify the country. If the facts speak to a different place, you ask, will the Republicans accept that? Well, it depends if the American people accept those facts, and that's why it has to be free of politics, but only about the facts and the law.
Final issue. There was certainly a suggestion from the father of this young man who emerged from North Korea in a coma.
No, so sad.
And there's certainly a suggestion that the previous administration did not do enough to try to get him out. Have we failed in our ability? Should we be paying ransom? Should we be doing more to try to get these people out when they are imprisoned in these horrendous places? This young man is now in a coma and has been for a year.
A decision by a government to release a prisoner is something about their own timing. I don't call him a prisoner, a hostage, whatever. To release a person is in their own time. It is not necessarily a reflection of what another country's timing is. So for some reason, the North Koreans decided that they would not, that they would release him. That's really the question. What is in their minds? Now, I'm one of the few people who's been to Pyongyang, North Korea. You know, a lot of people have been to Panmunjom on the border. I've been there. It's a very, very dangerous and strange place. I don't think that the president of Korea is reacting to anything outside. I think it has something to do with his own decision-making, and we'll see what that...
So you don't fault the previous administration?
No, most people don't want us paying ransoms. They don't want us, because then that will only increase the number of hostages. So, you know, you have to calibrate, weigh the equities as to how this... It's an outrage that the North Koreans took this young boy took this young boy in the first place. But again, the issue of hostage paying ransom for hostages or prisoners and the rest is a deep discussion in our country, and most people to the place that it will just encourage more kidnappings or arrest and the rest. But again, you have to judge every situation on its own merit. But no, I don't fault the previous administration. I think this is something to do with the timing within North Korea.
Leader Pelosi, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And tonight it will be play ball.
Yes, it is. We'll all be on Team Scalise tonight. We'll all be in our different sides to play the game with all the camaraderie that goes with it. But Team Steve Scalise, that's one we'll all be on, rooting for him.
Indeed we will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And still ahead, more on that Russian investigation. Bombshell Special Counsel Robert Mueller investigating the president for possible obstruction of justice. Stay with us right here. We'll be right back.
It's an important question you ask, but one I think with a simple answer. We have this need to pick